Welcome to the Pathfinder Legacy Podcast, where we help farmers, ranchers, and business owners create a seamless transition plan for the future. From retirement to ownership transfer, we protect what you've built and guide you every step of the way.
Hello, all. This month is Caregiver Awareness Month, a time to honor those who've cared for loved ones and carried forward their stories. Today, I'm joined by Kirk's Aunt Shirley and her son, Rock. Shirley brought her family back to spend summers and holidays on the farm that's now over 100 years old. We're talking about life with Grandma and Grandpa, what it meant to grow up Norwegian on the prairie, and how those early memories shape the way we care for each other and our land today. All right, welcome, Rock and Shirley.
Nice to be here.
Welcome to you.
All right. Well, very good. I've talked about on past episodes, I gave the history of our farm and that the house that we're living in is over 100 years old. And this is where we raised our two daughters as the fifth generation of Olsons to be living in the house. So I've talked about this being a Montgomery Ward house. It was a kit that came in on the rail and they put it together. So for those that don't remember or aren't aware of what Montgomery Ward is, it was the Walmart in those days. So Shirley, you are one of the older siblings of 10. There were 10 siblings in the family. There were 6 girls and 4 boys. Tell me what number you are in the family.
3.
You're number 3. Okay. And then Rock, you are the oldest grandchild of 20. How many grandchildren? Were there 26?
I believe
27.
Something like that.
I believe it's 27.
Okay. All right. So 27 grandchildren and 10 children. There was a lot of family that has come and gone through this farmhouse over the years. And it's created, if these walls could talk, a lot of memories and so forth. Shirley, I'm going to start with you a little bit first.
That was Henry. Yeah, that's the obituary I sent you.
Okay. And there were how many in Henry's family that were raised in this house?
Well, there was 2 girls and 3 boys.
Okay, so 5 total. And then Henry was the one that stayed to farm. And then with his family, he had Mervyn, which is your dad.
Well, he was the second one.
Mervyn was the second. Okay. And then Mervyn and Signe, which is your mom, they raised 10 children. And you are the third oldest?
Yeah, I'm the third in the line.
Third in line. Okay. And Shirley, how old are you? If you want to share your age.
I don't mind. No, just don't ask me how much I weigh.
Okay, we won't ask. We won't ask. We're not looking at our driver's license.
91.
91. And you're still
My
in your
sister died at 94.
Okay. So there's a lot of longevity in the family. A lot of longevity, a lot of stories. So what was it like growing up in this farmhouse with all of the children coming and going?
We weren't all there at the same time, so it was just like any other big family. There was a lot of big families in that age. That's the age that they had big families. So we were just one of them.
Just another family that you had. And that's very typical, having the large families, because you had a lot of work. There was manual labor that needed to be done on the farm, and things weren't as automated as they are now. So you needed all the extra hands, and came with the extra hands was what you needed to be able to help feed everybody. So when you were in the house, did you each have your own bedroom?
Oh, no.
No. So you want to talk about what your sleeping arrangements were like being in the house? Because at that time, it was, the house has been remodeled a handful of times and added on and made things more open.
There was only 3 bedrooms, and Dad fixed the basement up for the boys. But that came later.
So you and your sisters were all sharing beds and in one bedroom, perhaps, or 2 bedrooms?
1 bedroom and then 2 twin beds, and one of us had to sleep together
In a twin bed.
in a twin bed.
How old were you at that time when you were having to share a twin bed? Because you don't get much room to turn around without elbowing someone.
I suppose we were 8. I don't remember those details. I remember when I was in high school, we were all there. And I'm not positive where everybody slept. I just know where I slept.
Okay. Okay. You remember just having tight quarters because you couldn't afford. You're just trying to get established with the farm and being able to have enough money just to even raise the crops and livestock and then take care of a large family. So that was a
Well,
luxury not having.
Mom and Dad had a room. Grandma and Grandpa had a room.
Okay.
And we, all 3 girls, had a room. There was a room where kind of off of Mom's and Dad's room that they must have had a bed in there for somebody.
Okay. Well, it was definitely an extended family situation where you were taking care of your grandparents. They were living in the house and they were helping as well. But your parents, Mervyn and Signe, were helping with Henry. And tell me what Henry's wife's name was.
Margaret.
What was grandma's?
Margaret.
Okay. So helping with Henry and Margaret as they were aging and so forth. Because at that time, there weren't nursing homes or there was an assisted care facility for them to go into. They were staying in the house as well with the younger generations. So growing up on the farm, what were some of the things you remember about Grandma and Grandpa? What's one thing that comes to mind that you remember with some of the memories with Grandma and Grandpa?
I remember that Grandma and Grandpa slept in that big bed, the bedroom right off the dining room or the living room when you guys moved there.
Great grandma and grandpa.
Great Grandma and Grandpa, yeah.
Sure.
It wasn't it was my Grandma and Grandpa.
Right.
Grandma was usually always on the bed reading or crocheting, or we would bring things in to her and she would sew them up for us and just visit with her.
And the sewing machine was one of those.
It wasn't a sewing machine. She did things by hand.
Oh.
Okay.
I remember a pedal sewing machine.
But that was
Later. Oh, boy.
No, that wasn't later. That was our machine that we learned to sew on.
Okay. So you picked up some of those skills from Margaret on how to do some of the seamstress work or crocheting from her. Did you learn some of those skills?
I didn't do a lot of that handwork. Mom crocheted a lot and Grandma crocheted a lot. But
you remember all your knitting you used to do.
But I like to knit.
Okay.
I learned to knit from an aunt.
And did that aunt come to visit that would come to the farm? Or how did you get it?
No, I and Rock went to stay with her she was from Wisconsin, and I went to stay with her for a week or so from when my first husband was killed in a truck accident.
Okay.
And Grandma Ekron went with us.
Okay.
And we stayed there. I don't know how long we stayed there, but.
And that's where you learned to knit?
And that's where I learned to knit.
Okay. So have you done a lot of knitting over the years?
I've done a lot of knitting, but I'm not knitting anymore. I'm 91.
No.
Full coat lined for me.
Wow. Did you have that when you were in high school, Rock?
After high school.
Well, that's really neat.
Warmest coat I ever had.
Oh, I'm sure.
Wasn't a coat, it was a sweater.
Well, zipper sweater.
Yeah, it
But
was a
still.
zipper. It was a heavy knit sweater. I knit a lot of those.
Well, I remember you made for all of the great-grandchildren, and you made both of my girls those sweaters, and they were pink, and you had their name on it, and it had the zipper up the back with a hood. So I remember you making a lot of those for all
I
the
make
grandchildren.
a lot of those.
So
Well, they
nobody should have walked away being cold in the Midwest. They should have all been very kept warm. So you mentioned that you lost your husband at an early, he was in an accident, Rock's dad. You want to talk a little bit about that, or Rock, you want to talk about what you remember from that time and how you guys came back to the farm to visit from time to time and just that comfort you felt from being around family?
We were in the Air Force when we married. He was in the Air Force, and we came
Okay.
home from there in a November, which was a bad time. And then later we moved to Minot, and he went to school in Minot in the trailer, small trailer we lived in Louisiana, and we hauled that all the way up to North Dakota, and then we hauled it to Minot and lived in that when he was going to school.
Okay.
He got a job hauling gravel for the Air Force Base when the Air Force Base came to Minot.
Okay.
And he and a lot of fellows hauled gravel to the air base, to the landing base, the landing strip, that took a lot of gravel.
Sure. Yep. Building that up.
Was doing. And I had gone home for a friend's wedding on the train to Williston. He stayed to his job, and when it was just a day or so, I got a call from Minot that he was in an accident. He was in the hospital. We were taken to Williston, and then his mother was living in Williston. And so she went with me, and we had a private plane and flew down to Minot. He was in shock, and he was just laying in a room all by himself. No wires, no nothing. And he was in shock. And that's where he died.
So, Rock, how old were you at that time when you lost your dad?
I was a couple months from being 3 years old.
Do you remember that time after that and then coming to the farm to spend time with grandparents?
The farm was always home. It was always the place I could call home, because when I was 8, that's when Mom remarried.
Well, not for 5 years.
Right. When I was 8. And
When you were 8, yeah.
or 7. So we traveled after that. And so I never had a place I could call home except the farm.
Well, and your brothers took over as your father. I mean, my brothers
Yeah.
and Grandpa were kind of his father
My
figures.
father figures. Yep.
You want to talk about some of those memories that you remember with Grandpa and your uncles mentoring you?
Well, I had an uncle that was the youngest of them, was only 10 years older than I was. They all helped get me going. I remember Uncle Keith was my favorite uncle, I have to say, but he was the one on the farm. One was in the service, and another one had a business, I believe. And so being around Uncle Keith and on the tractor or in the Quonset when he was singing, that was the greatest acoustic to listen to him sing. So I was very young. I wanted to be on the tractor with him. And then when we got done, I would run straight to the bathroom and look in the mirror to see if my face got as dirty as his. And
Did you accomplish it? Did you accomplish coming back with a dirty face?
I think so.
So you remember being out there in the field with them. And you had talked the other day about a story. You might have had allergies, but you were in the field. And what was that you were helping with?
Well, the combine for square bales, the small square bales, they had a piece of plywood that they pulled like skidding along behind the baler, and I had to wear this mask and goggles and everything else. And I made the pyramids, like 6 bale pyramids, and I would push them off the back. And I had to keep an eye out for bales that didn't get tied. And they kind of giggled at me because I came in sneezing my head off.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
I found out my birth dad was also had allergies, and they giggled at him too. So
Hay fever.
hay fever, yes.
so you know where it came from in the family, but yet still being out there, enjoying your time in the field and learning and soaking up as much as you possibly could. And that probably aided you down the road, having some of those early memories on the farm as you went off to high school and so forth. And then later, as you started to raise a family of your own, you come back to some of those stories and early experiences that have shaped who you are today.
Definitely. Yeah. I never did quit singing.
Okay.
And it
So
was really good work ethic.
that hard work that comes from the farm and all of the labor that is all handwork at that age versus what we have right now with the mechanical. I mean, it's a different type of work. It's still hard work, but it's a different type of work. But having that appreciation for
watching them milk the cows, all that, banding the sheep, and I remember it all.
Yeah. So you want to talk about how many cows did they milk at that time?
I believe they had about 6. And I can remember Grandpa going out and just yelling, "Hum, Bussy, hum, Bussy." And
That was Grandpa.
Grandpa. What did I say? Okay.
Yeah.
Grandpa would say that. And they'd come running. They knew it was time to get their hay, but it was also time to get milked. And so,
Yeah.
Great Grandpa.
No, that's Grandpa. Grandpa Mervyn.
Oh, well.
Yeah. They had dairy cattle, just a few head to be able to provide milk and cream and butter and so forth for the family. Then did you guys
use a separator? We had to crank a separator, and I can remember all that. It was hand done, and you could see the cream, yummy cream come off. It was very good.
Probably some of the best baked goods and things that you had. Shirley, did you help with some of those things in the kitchen with any of the baking and preparing from what you guys were raising on the farm?
Oh, yeah. We were in 4-H.
Okay.
And we had projects for that. And
okay. So you did baking. Was that one of your projects?
Oh, I don't remember for sure, but we always help Mom with baking. But
okay.
I grew up with some really good cinnamon rolls and bread that somebody knew how to do.
Well, Grandma and Mom knew how to do it.
And taught you very well, I must say.
Yeah. So you've shared those things over the years that, Rock, you recall your mom learning and then you as well, and sharing some of that with your children and grandchildren. So you all had some of those traditional things. Did you guys make lefse? Did you do the Norwegian heritage?
When I first remember, the stove in the kitchen was the old stove where you put wood and coal in the. It was a flat top, and that's where you baked your lefse. And
there you go. But you have all of that good history and those recipes from that recipe box that have been built up from your grandparents to your mom to you, and then pass those recipes on to Rock and his family as well. Rock, do you make lefse with your mom?
Oh, yes. 2 winters ago. And so we bought a griddle. We're ready to give it a go this year.
All right. Well, I think the girls and I need to come and make some lefse with you guys. I know my mom got a lefse griddle and she got some sort of kit. We haven't broken out of the box yet, but they love to eat lefse. So I think they would.
It's time to break it out.
And
there you go.
What was the story about Grandpa Olson and great Grandpa Olson and Grandpa or great Uncle Helgeson? They were brothers.
Yeah.
Which one kept the Norwegian tradition of changing the last name?
Grandpa changed his name to Olson, where his brother's name is Helgeson. And it's because his father's name was Ole, and that's why Grandpa changed his name to Olson. But
Henry Olson's dad was Ole. I see. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I did not know that because that's what we call our youngest. Where that's her nickname is Oli. So and we thought it was just shortened. I mean, it was just much easier to cheer her on in sports and call her Oli than by her full name.
His name was Olus. Olus is what it was.
So he followed
Olus.
the Norwegian tradition, yet the Helgesons were the ones that kept speaking Norwegian. And I learned the Kan du snakke norsk and Lite Grunn and all that back when I was young. And that's the only words I learned. But it's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting. So the family, Helgeson, and I think my husband has told me this before, I could be Heidi Helgeson instead of Heidi Olson.
That's right.
Yep. And Shirley, did you learn how to speak any of the language when your parents or grandparents were talking Norwegian? Did you learn any words?
Mom taught us how to count to 10 in Norwegian, but that's the only thing I remember that she talked about it.
Okay.
Otherwise, there wasn't much Helgeson. Grandpa used to sit in his rocking chair and read his Norwegian Bible.
He would, huh?
He didn't talk in Norwegian, so.
But he could read it. He just didn't speak it.
He could speak it, but he never spoke it to us.
Okay.
We didn't learn any Norwegian from them, but
Okay.
Grandpa didn't talk a whole lot at all. So
Yeah.
And were they talking in English or were they talking? They didn't talk together.
in English because I don't think Dad knew much about Norwegian either. Grandma wasn't a Norwegian, so we heard her talk more than Grandpa. I only knew Grandpa when he got older or really knew him. Grandpa was always sitting in his chair rocking or listening to the radio. Mom appreciated him because she could dump one of us in his lap and he would rock that one while she was tending to another one. They were very much helpful too.
They used the old washing machines that.
Well, we had the old Ringer type washing machine that was in the basement, and Mom, I just remember helping her wash clothes. We filled the tank up with hot water, and did many washings in that one water.
Mm-hmm.
And the rinsing in a tub. And then we put them through the wringer to wring them out.
It flattened them is what I remember.
And then we took them out to the clothesline to hang them. If it was cold out, we hung them out in the cold, and they got stiff as boards. And then we brought them back in, and they were drier then. But then we hung them up someplace else to finish drying. That's what Mom had to do with all the diapers. You didn't have throwaway diapers. You had cloth diapers. And Mom, I can see her on the floor in the basement scraping out the mess in the diapers and rinsing them and then putting them in the washing machine.
So did you guys have indoor plumbing or water at that time? Or did you have to?
Not when we first came. Dad put the water in and got a water heater. We had to heat everything on the stove.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was.
They had to go out to the windmill was pumping the water out across the drive.
Well, if the wind was blowing, it pumped the water. If not, you had to pump it yourself.
So how old do you think you were, Shirley, when you guys got running water in the house?
Oh, I was like 8th grader or freshman.
You probably have a lot of memories of having to use the buckets and haul water in because you didn't have a cistern or anything in the house.
Everybody else had to do it too. So
they had a cistern for rainwater.
We had a cistern that would catch rainwater, but we didn't always have a lot of rain.
And if it didn't rain, then you were having to go bucket it by hand from the well.
Any plumbing. We had I don't know what kind of pot it was in the basement where we could use in the wintertime, but otherwise we used the outhouse and a catalog. was our paper. Not fun.
Not fun. It might have been that Montgomery Ward catalog or the Sears catalog that you're taking those pages out
You
of.
try to find the softest paper in the catalog.
So, Shirley, I don't know if Rock has told you this, but that we still had the outhouse out in the garden.
I saw that.
So I sent him a picture, and we'll pull up a picture for our listeners to see that. But we were cleaning this out. So in the 20 plus years that Kirk and I have been on the farm, the outhouse has always just looked like a garden shed. So when we cleaned it out, we were pretty surprised to see that there were 3 holes in that outhouse.
They made it with the 3 holes.
It always had 3 holes.
And a lot of us needed to go at the same time. Mm-hmm. So there were 3 holes, and maybe there needed to be a 4th one. Who knows?
And you brought a younger sibling with you.
Well, we always probably had a little one that needed to go to the pot at the same time. That was just the way it was when we were kids.
So you didn't know any different. You didn't think anything of it. If you were going to the bathroom and you had 2 other neighbors sitting right next to you while you're using the facilities at the same time.
That's right.
So our youngest, Oli, she laughed and giggled, and we'll have to show a picture, but we took a picture of all 3 of us sitting in there because it's just to show how close you were to your neighbor. And she giggled about that. She's like, I could be sitting next to you, Dad, using the bathroom the same time that you and Mom are using the bathroom.
Well, I think we did have girls or boys.
Yeah, just make sure that you're.
And that was Rock, and when he was real little.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
when you had the little.
By the time he came, we had a pot in the house.
By that time, you had more of those conveniences in the indoor.
When he came along.
Mm-hmm.
The youngest sibling of Mom is just 4 years older than I am. So
it felt just like you were part of the family then, Rock, that you were.
The 11th child is what I felt like, yes. Because
there you go.
Living in Williston, we were there every weekend. And then during the summer, I was there all the time. Mom was pregnant with my little sister when my dad passed. So
okay,
she quite a lady.
You knew what you needed to do to take care of your family and persevere and figure things out. And you had that time that you came back to the farm, and that probably was a sense of comfort and healing for you to be around your family and your siblings and your parents to help you and get that guidance.
The oldest one, Bonnie, was a nurse, and she came back to Williston. Okay. And we had an apartment together. She was there when Gail was born.
So Bonnie helped you with Gail and with Rock when they were little, and she wasn't married yet at the time?
No.
Okay. How long did you live in Williston that she was helping you with your young family?
5 years. And then she got married, and then we moved to another place that was less expensive. So I moved there with Rock and Gail.
So always that I'm hearing this constant theme is always caregiving. So it didn't matter if you were caregiving for your parents and grandparents or your siblings, you're always caregiving, and it's helping family and taking care of them.
Well, when there's 10 of you or less, there's always somebody you can get to help, you know?
Yep.
I always felt like I was the Pied Piper because I always could get along with any child. It felt like one wasn't going to cry if I picked it up. That's just the way it was. Right. You had to learn how to nurture.
That's right. And just not be afraid to get your hands dirty and just pick up wherever help is needed. So one of the other things I want to talk about is this family is very musical. Rock, you mentioned that you recall a lot of music very early in your life, and you want to visit on that a little bit, on what your experiences are with the musical talents?
It seemed like they all could sing. I don't remember any of them not being able to sing, and I'll be sending you recordings that are quite amazing.
Before TV, when we would be together on the weekends or whenever a holiday, when evening came, we all sat around the living room, dining room area and sang. Whether we had a piano player or a guitar player or whatever, we just sang. Well,
Okay.
Keith and I sang later on. We sang at different things.
But to start with, I mean, you learned that at home from your parents, and that was rather than playing cards or sitting around the table playing games, your family was very musical and you just started singing at a very young age. And instruments, did anybody in the family play instruments?
We all kind of took lessons, but piano lessons, but it didn't take on me, but some of the others played more so, but
Okay. So I
later
recall,
the guitar and he plays the guitar now. And
okay.
I got tired of Gail and Rock just strumming the same thing over and over. So I took them over to a town in Minnesota and gave them guitar lessons.
Okay.
For a couple
And
months.
yeah. And Rock, you're a very good guitar player. I've heard you at some of our family reunions. And I think the first time that I met you, that was a fun experience because it rained. I remember, right? We were in a campground and it rained, and it was kind of like bringing back that family tradition. Okay, what else can we do? We can't do anything else. So you
Well,
guys just started playing music.
that's what we do. So that's what I'm just
Mhm.
assuming we're going to all sing.
So there's a picture that you have, and we can bring that up here after a bit and show, but you have of our youngest daughter. Both of the girls love music. And once you started playing, she was right there. She was like Velcro to your side, just watching you
And
play.
I handed her my pick and I says, "Here, why don't you strum?" And I saw that she had talent. And so when we got in front of the group, I says, "Come here." And Katie came up and I gave her the pick and she wasn't afraid.
Nope.
And
She just bonded with you right away.
didn't miss a lick.
No, that was fun to see that in her not, at such a young age. And you also said, Rock, that you play the harmonica too, not just.
Blues harp, but I played in bands for 15 years or more, and it's hard to find somebody to play your instrument so you can pick up the blues harp. But there was a couple sets I got to blow.
Do you think you would have had the interest in music had you not been exposed to it? Had your mom not exposed you to, being at the farm and being around all of that music? Do you think you would have had an interest?
Yes.
Well, they got an interest from school. You always sang in different groups in school.
Yeah. Mom also, when she married when I was 8, she married a music teacher, but then he decided he wanted to be a pastor. So we moved to Texas. So I did a lot of moving, prevented me from really getting good at the piano because a new teacher at the next town, always. But I picked up guitar in high school. I saw a ukulele under the Christmas tree. I snuck upstairs, saw it, and I said, well, awesome, I'm going to get a ukulele. And then it turned out to be my sister's, and I went, oh. So
you didn't ever steal it from her and
yeah, I did. And then she
strum
would
it a little bit?
take her to guitar lessons, and I was, no, not without me. So
Right. I want to go too. Well, I remember when we first moved into this house. So one of the areas of the house, there was, I don't remember if it was a player piano. I think it might have been. It was an old player piano. It weighed a ton. And we donated it to one of the local museums because we just didn't feel that it should just go to be made into a compost pile or anything. So we took it to a museum, and I thought, well, that was, in learning more of this history on what the family did, and that player piano was probably used quite a bit in the evenings.
Did they fix up the player?
They wore it out.
We wore it out.
Okay. I don't think it worked either because we tried it. It didn't work. But, you could, the keyboard portion, you would have, it probably needed some tuning. But yeah, you could use it either or. So it was.
Well, a lot of people are, of course, fixing those player pianos, fixing them. And we had a lot of.
So, one of the other items that growing up in a large family, so you all had to pitch in. You may have had to get jobs and work off of the farm too, because maybe there was enough hands on the farm to keep that work moving. But Shirley, you also worked in the small town of Arnegard. Is that correct? And you worked as a spud picker, I understand, or you worked in the fields? Okay.
In high school, we could get somebody to pick with us. You had to have two, and they would close school for a couple weeks before school in September.
Okay.
They would haul us up to the river bottom, they called it, up on the Missouri River to Williston. They would dump us out up there, and we would pick potatoes. And they'd give us a bucket and and some bushel. And two of those buckets filled the bushel
Bag.
Yep, okay.
And we got 10 cents a bushel.
Okay. And you got to keep that money that you made for picking potatoes?
Oh, yeah, we got to keep what we made, yeah.
Okay. But that's interesting to know. So they shut the school down during that harvest time to be able to pick potatoes because they needed the extra hands. But the school, I never knew what the correlation was that's what they had you guys do that. But the school's mascot was
the
Arnegard.
mascot was Spuds because that's what we had. There was a building in Arnegard that was as they took the potatoes to, and they distributed them from there.
He took the Spuds to state in basketball, and my dad, he was the only person in his class, but I guess he was pretty good at it because I remember being lifted up a few times saying, "This is Eldon Johnson's boy."
So you played basketball as well, and you played on the state team. Did I hear that? You played on
state in 52.
Okay. And did you win at state?
Oh, don't ask that. Because the girls that were in state were a lot bigger than us, and we got beat out, but we had fun.
The fascinating thing is there were 6 on a team, 3 on defense and 3 on offense, and they didn't cross half court because the girls were too fragile to run the whole court,
Sure.
Yeah. That's what they thought when girls basketball was older. They had 6 on a team.
Okay. So it's kind of
3 guards and 3 forwards.
Okay. And you played in skirts or long dresses. Is that right? At that time?
Well, we were
Did you play with Were you?
But we made our own uniforms.
So you had even at that, and the school is closed now, but the school has some pretty interesting facts, if you will, that there was a team. Did one of the boys play on that team that went to state? And I thought they won at state?
Well, there was the boys went to state that year too. So,
okay.
So they went to state that year, 52.
Okay. And so that's pretty.
I don't remember where they went, but I know we went to Castleton.
Well, pretty interesting to have where you're both in a small town, both boys and girls teams. You could tell that they probably had some good teams working together. You probably played since you were, in elementary school and have that good teamwork.
I played from the 8th grade on because I was pretty tall next to a lot of them. And so I got to play on the senior team.
Okay. So you got to go ahead and be
And
on
I
the
was
varsity.
good at making baskets too. So
There you go.
And they passed it on to me because I went to State House.
Did you? I was going to ask you, Rock. So you were very athletic as well, not only musical, but athletic. And, got some of those talents from both of your parents. And you've got the height as well. So you played basketball all throughout high school.
And from small school in North Dakota, we were 23 in our class, and we were pretty proud we made it to state. We took 3rd place.
Ah, hey, that's a feat too. To very well done. And where did you graduate from for high school?
The last town in the southeast corner of North Dakota is Fairmount.
Something else that Grandma and Grandpa really did, or I should say it's more Rock's grandparents, Mervyn and Signe, they also had managed the nursing home or assisted care facility in Arnegard. Is that correct?
yeah, it was a big old building with lots of rooms, I guess. I didn't know much about it because I was already out when they did that.
Okay.
I spent summers there, at least one summer there when they took that. So I didn't bug Keith constantly.
Right. You got a break to go with Grandma and Grandpa. What do you remember from helping Grandma and Grandpa? Because they managed that nursing facility or assisted care, I guess, wasn't it?
It taught me how to treat the elderly. I actually was one of my first jobs out of high school. But the summer I graduated, I worked at a nursing home in Wahpeton. I was a assistant recreation director. I got to sing to them.
Okay. Very neat.
Yeah.
Diane was in school still when they did that.
Okay.
So
and Diane is the youngest.
Had a room at the old people's home.
Okay. Okay.
So she would be fond of that, but
probably not. As a high schooler at that time, it's not cool or you're not thinking, but you grow up around it and then it's in your roots. And you know that, this is what Grandma and Grandpa or Mom and Dad have done, because that would have been her parents. And she was, how much age difference was there between the oldest to the youngest of the 10 children? We're probably looking.
One was pregnant for 20 years.
Oh, bless her heart, right?
Yeah.
Bless her heart. She was a woman of the times and she handled a lot of things from, probably no indoor plumbing from the first baby to the end. And then finally having indoor plumbing and being able to shower or bathe inside the house and not have to go out and heat water.
Dad's mom lived in Arnegard for the first years of their marriage. And so they must have had plumbing then.
Okay.
But I think I never remember asking.
Okay. And then they moved out later to help Margaret and Henry and moved into the house.
Take over the farm. So it was Dad that was chosen.
Okay. So when you say was chosen, was there?
I don't know if he was chosen or not.
Okay. Or he was directed, because I'm curious about that, on how they came up with, okay, now Mervyn, you're the one that's going to,
the other brothers were off already to where they fit. And Dad had a big family. He really needed the farm.
Okay. Yep. So he needed the farm, needed the space. Everyone else already had their careers and they were off getting started. And so
one was the oldest and one was younger than Dad, but
okay.
I don't know the details of those days.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I might have to dig into that a little more.
Yeah, you'll have to dig in. I don't know who could tell you. They're all gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why it's so important to do these interviews and have these conversations, because some of these things we don't know if we don't talk about them. And oftentimes we have Thanksgiving dinner and everyone sits around and maybe we play cards or maybe sing a little bit, but then we're not remembering and telling those stories that we should be telling.
I don't know. Kurt probably doesn't remember the shearing of sheep. Has he ever mentioned that?
He's talked about having remembers growing up with lambs and how they would bring them into the bathtub. And if they needed to keep them warm or, if they were out in the cold and warming them up and having them in the bathtub. I don't know that he talks so much about shearing sheep or seeing but
that was Keith's job, was shearing sheep.
No, I remember them hiring out the shearers, but they had these 10-foot high burlap bags, and then they stuck the youngest, me, to stay in there and stomp down the wool as they threw it in. And that was lovely with all the ticks and everything. But
I was going to ask you how that went because I've heard stories. I've heard stories about that, and that wool and they're shearing them right before they start lambing. So that way they're clean, they're ready for their babies. But, they've had that wool on for several months already. So it was probably
the oil that was in the wool.
Yeah, the lanolin.
The lanolin that was in the wool. That was what I remember about the wool.
Yep. And made your hands nice and soft.
But
all right. Well, are there any?
The others, they would have more information about growing up, but then I'm not a very good memory.
She was third in the line, but she also was the first to marry, and leave home. So,
okay. But it's still good to hear some of these stories and hear you talk about your experiences that you had being one of the oldest, and then Rock, you being the oldest grandchild, and those early memories, because you probably remember more than what the younger ones do. Remember being in the house and so forth and being on the farm to see what was going on. So
living so close, so I spend a lot of time there, yes.
Yep. Okay. So before we're getting close to the end here, before we wrap up. So Rock, what is the one thing that if you could give to tell your great-grandchildren or children down the road, what is the one thing that you would want to share with them from your experience growing up with this family history, rich in food and culture and caregiving and taking care of the land?
Oh, we didn't touch on Grandpa's contour farming. I was fascinating that I'm pretty sure Grandpa had a picture in the Bismarck State Capitol, an aerial shot of his contour farming to save the topsoil from blowing away. And the singing, the togetherness, there was no ill will toward anybody. Everybody got along. It just, they were family. They were the Waltons.
Just a great experience growing up, even not really remembering your birth father as much, but knowing that you were cared for and nurtured and they took you in just like you were another one of the kids, and making sure that they could teach you as much as they could.
Right. And I received that from the Johnsons also, but they were not farming anymore. So
you got to spend time with both sides of the family.
Yes.
Yep. Very good. Shirley, what's one thing that if you were to look back on, what's one of your fondest memories of growing up here on the farm?
Oh, man. There's way too many memories of big family, and you always had somebody to be with. You never were lonesome, that's for sure. So it's hard to pick out one thing.
Would you veer more towards the delicious food that you guys, rich food, or would you veer more towards on the musical side?
Oh, more to the cooking, I guess, because Mom always had a good meal. As poor as we were, they raised their own beef and chickens, so you always had beef or chicken to eat, and potatoes. You always had a garden. Grandpa grew the garden, and so you never were hungry. So that would be part of it. We would come home from school, the whole tribe of us, and Mom would a lot of times have buns, bacon, and very good.
Everybody gathered around the table. I remember that.
We always had plenty to eat, whether we were hungry or what. And if there wasn't something else, she'd make pancakes.
Okay. From scratch. Everything was from scratch.
Yes. And Mom if she didn't know what to feed us, she'd make milk grout. It's called rumagrout.
Rumagrout. I remember that was yummy. It was not hard to eat that at all.
You took flour and butter and then added milk or cream or both, and then ate it on your plate. You put it on your plate and ate it with butter and cinnamon.
Sugar.
Okay. One of those Norwegian staples, having rumagrout.
Had milk and cream. You always had butter and sugar.
Cinnamon rolls every Sunday. We get to run home after church and eat cinnamon.
If we could even, for me to remember some of those recipes that my grandma's made, I mean, it would take me a bit to recall some of those, but that, sure. All right. Well, anything else that either you can think of that you want to share before we wrap up today?
I've done it all that I can think of.
Okay. All right. Anything, Rock, that you could think of?
No, I think as far as the music goes, Mom was great at pushing Gail and I out in front of the church and having us perform. And so that's kind of, she passed on the music stuff to us.
Our ancestors that cared for the land, livestock, and family with the grit, faith, and love. And as we honor Caregiver Awareness Month, may we carry that same spirit forward in the fields, in our families, and then the legacy that we build. So I'm Heidi Olson with Pathfinder Legacy, wishing you a season of gratitude and good conversations around the table this Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining me on Pathfinder Legacy podcast. If today's episode made you think about your own family or your next steps in planning, share it with a friend or another farm or business family. And if you're ready to start the conversation about your legacy, you can book a free 30-minute discovery call at pathfinderlegacy.com. At the end of the day, legacy isn't just luck. It's leadership, planning, and showing up when it counts. Until next time, I'll see you between the ditches.
Thanks for listening to the Pathfinder Legacy Podcast, where your future is our focus. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and visit us at pathfinderlegacy.com to start building your transition plan today.